Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to This Week in the TERF Wars. How are you? I'm drinking out of a an invisible top pineapple, but I'm drinking out of a pineapple today, because why not? So I hope you can all hear the sound. Please do let me know. I have changed my setup. The last few weeks we've had a few technical issues and I've got a whole new setup. So now I've got like different screens going on. I've got a cable which runs from my entire house to the modem. So now there's no Wi-Fi issues. So hopefully that's sorted. And I've got this little clicky point thing. So I don't have to use some stupid app on my phone to change between the very high quality tweets from our opposers, which is what we'll be looking at today. So for anyone who's new to the TERF Wars, basically what I do is I go through the last week's worth. So this is just since last Friday and not including today, just 1 week's worth of rubbish from gender critical people, TERFs, general transphobes, and a few like other idiots I encountered on the way. We've got a couple of those this week. So that should be fun. One point I want to make, which I always try and make, is I've anonymized all of these people, and I did that on purpose. I want to just combat their ideas or just laugh at their nonsense. And I don't want this to be about targeting people, so please don't go like looking for these people, don't like do pylons or anything. That's not the point in this. The point is to laugh at how rubbish their arguments are and see the arguments and then just move on. So that's the goal of TERF Wars anyway. Right. So let's move on to it. I've also changed my screen select thing, so I hope this works well. Yay! Right, so obviously the biggest news of the whole week was that Trump got kicked off Twitter, which is obviously the most important thing going on in the world, whether who's on Twitter or not. And I think it's probably the most exciting person to get kicked off Twitter since Glinner, which we all remember, which was also a good time. So I just thought I'd start off with one of the most influential gender critical people's reactions to that, which was, of course, utter enjoyment because he's a massive misogynist and they're real feminists and they want Oh, no, it's not. They are annoyed that he got kicked off. They've said, whatever you think of Trump and his views will vary greatly on this page. We should take this move by technocrat billionaires seriously. Many of us are already silenced on various platforms. That's a little nod to how the person who runs this account, Standing for Women, who's the creator of Adult Human Female, which we've all seen, is banned from Twitter and several other platforms, I think. I mean, the thing is the people who get banned from these platforms are fascists and people who harass people and call for the genocide and systematic sterilization of trans people. So it's not really a loss. I saw, the classic poem that's like, first they came for the socialists and I didn't speak out because I wasn't the socialist, and it goes through. I saw one that said, first they came for the fascists. Full stop. Cool. All right, fine. That's it. That's all they've come for, so it's fine. There is arguments to be had about free speech, but I just think it's worth noting who is celebrating and who is not, and for what reasons. And it's just a bit strange that all of the feminists are pleased that Trump is gone, or most of them, and the gender critical people, lots of them aren't. Anyway, so now we're going to move on to, working, new little clicker, it's good. It's actually got a laser thing. I won't be using that, obviously. So this was a little funny message that I got from someone. So I was like, lol, Trump got suspended. Feels like the day Glenn got suspended. Bye-bye, dickhead. And then this person's put, this is actually very scary. This is how North Korea happened. So obviously the first stage of North Korea was they had their previous leader kicked off Twitter, and then it turned into what it is today. Definitely. I don't actually think North or South Korea really had electricity when they split into two separate countries. That was like one of the things they were trying to show off to each other, like, oh, we're doing better than you because we have like electricity. And North Korea built this like whole fake city on the border, which is just like fake walls, which just has fake lights behind it to make it look to South Koreans like the North Koreans had electricity. I've actually been to the South Korean border and like looked through just normal binoculars to see this fake town. It's still there. I think they must have built it in the 50s or something in the Korean War. And it's literally just like a load of walls with fake lights behind them to make it look like it's a powered city. Anyway, so that was just setting the scene for the level of argumentative intellect on display this week. This week has been hilarious. This has been one of my favourite. I think I've done the most laughing out loud at people replying to me on Twitter that I've ever done this week. And I've got 3 big ones for you. We'll just start off with a couple of other so we're going to do a couple of dumb ones, and then we'll do the main 3 this week, which I was laughing at, and then we'll finish off with another couple of standard mixed in ones. Oh no, I've got cat hair up my nose. Oh. Trying not to sneeze. Right. Onwards. Oh, okay. So I drew this cartoon. This is one of my things that I'm pointing out at the moment. Gender critical people like to call trans people like enforcing the patriarchy, and their evidence will be some trans women wear dresses or some trans women wear makeup. Which is true because, you know, some women wear dresses and some women wear makeup. And obviously not all trans women do, and there are like trans women who like do all that kind of stuff, you know, they're like the stereotypical modern day like women stuff. And there are those who don't, just like cis women. There's the same full range. There are trans women who are like super butch and super masculine, can't be asked with any of that. And there are some who absolutely love it all. And there are some who jump between. Like, I feel like, you know, I like looking like this. And I also like, oh no, I pressed the button by accident. I also like, you know, going to my metal shows and just wearing more metal stuff. Anyway, that's their main argument for why trans people are the patriarchy. And my main argument for why gender critical is actually part of the patriarchy is like, I mean, there's a whole list. They're fighting against bodily autonomy. You know, they're supporting traditionally patriarchal views of how sex should work. You know, they're always talking about sex roles and all this kind of stuff. And so much of it just boils down to literally just arguing for gender stereotypes, but renaming them like sex roles or something. Like a classic is Transgender Trend, which is one of the like big hate groups, which is trying to take away healthcare and support for children, trans children. They actually recommend enforcing gender stereotypes on your children to stop them from transitioning, like as if that's going to work. Like, didn't work for me, did it? And they're just literally just like, you need to enforce gender stereotypes. I mean, I think they actually say like, make sure they don't use incorrect sex roles or something like nonsense. But anyway, so I also like to point out how you can see who the patriarchy is by who they're agreeing with. Like all of these horrible backwards nightmare patriarchy people like Donald Trump, Viktor Orban, can't remember his first name, Duda, so that's from Hungary and Poland. Like all of them have the same views on trans people as gender critical people do, obviously. And they've got others groups like Answers in Genesis, the Heritage Foundation, which are big Christian organisations, Ben Shapiro, the Vatican, Britain First, UKIP, BNP, men's rights activists, actual neo-Nazis, Tommy Robinson, the Republicans, like all of Alliance Defending Freedom, I might as well say them all. All of these groups have the same views on trans people as gender critical people do. Like whenever you think, like imagine you just meet some like, oh god, it's one of these like some old racist homophobic knobhead at the pub who like, oh god, he's going to say all this stuff and absolutely tedious man, like, you know, that kind of like traditional misogynist dickhead. No one thinks, oh, he's a misogynist, like he's going to be a homophobe, he's going to be a racist, and he's probably going to be a strong trans rights ally. Like it's total bullshit. He'll be transphobic like as a baseline. Like that's one of the first prejudices he'll get out there. Because of course it is. Because they always those things always link together. Anyway, I drew this cartoon to just say, here's like loads of traditional patriarchy groups that all hold gender critical views. Here's some gender critical groups saying, actually, we're not the patriarchy because you wear dresses. And then the trans people then said, anyway, I drew that and I got some hilarious reactions from this cartoon, of course. But my favourite one was this guy who says, this is a straw man. And you might be thinking, I wonder what type of straw man, like, is he saying, it's actually bullshit because gender critical people don't think that, or because, those groups don't actually argue this position, or actually trans rights and trans people and like feminists and LGBT people aren't aligned or whatever. Well, let's just have a look at his profile. White Lives Matter, gender critical ally. Literally just, like, in the cartoon, he's just literally one of these guys. Like, just a racist and a gender critical person. So he's literally, I know I probably oversay literally. British people always say literally too much, and I am no exception. This guy is literally who I just drew in this fucking cartoon. Lol. So, and here's some of his greatest hits. I actually think we might have covered these last week. But anyway, most gender criticals aren't fascists. It should be obvious that people don't feel comfortable with being replaced. And it's why I'm against the white genocide, as you should be. White genocide is real and sterilization of white population is an element of it. Like, this guy literally thinks that trans people are like some plot by Jewish people or someone to get rid of white people by tricking everyone into transitioning and then being sterile. So he's literally like what I drew in the cartoon. So that was, it was just so good. I couldn't believe how perfect it was. Like, one of the first replies was like, gender critical people aligned with the fascists. And then actual fascist replies, who has gender critical in his bio, and was like, yeah, well, actually, I'm a racist and a gender critical person. Like, oh mate, I laughed so much. Like, I actually screamed out loud when this happened. Like, so the first time I encountered this guy was actually like a week or two ago. And I was so, it was so over the top reading this. I was like, it must be a false flag. Like, there must just be some shit knobhead pretending to be a racist gender critical person. But it's not. Like, they've been tweeting for absolutely ages, this kind of stuff. And it's not like, they haven't gone past that point of, I mean, it's ridiculous, but they're so invested in it. And they've really been arguing their case. I mean, it's all complete bullshit. But, like, beyond parody. Like, I couldn't have made this up. It's actually perfect. So good. I feel like it's one of these things where when you tell this story, no one's going to believe it because it's actually unbelievable. Here it is, natural screenshots. Unreal. Absolutely unreal. Anyway, the next hilarious thing that made me laugh out loud. So I did some tweet completely unrelated to this. It was just some general, trans rights nonsense, whatever. And this person replied, I used to follow you for a balanced take. Ha! I've watched you from the sidelines as your tweets have become more and more embarrassing. You clearly care more about one thing and one thing only. Yourself. Katie Montgomery, me. So, look, these, like, I've had a couple of these tweets of people being like, I used to think you're reasonable and now, like, you've become extreme and you're crazy now and you didn't used to be. And, I mean, usually when people announce their departure, it's like, okay, like, it's kind of self-centered. I don't know who you are. Why would I care that you're going? And they often try and, like, it's kind of like a manipulative tactic to say, was trying to make people doubt themselves by saying, like, you've become extreme. You didn't used to be extreme, but you've become extreme. But the thing is, like, I'm sure that my positions have changed over time, but not in the last few months. And, like, my extreme positions that they're talking about are things like we shouldn't ban trans women from the toilets. Which, by the way, like, perhaps I should have included this, but I did say to them, this person in reply, like, if banning trans people from the, if opposing a ban of trans people from the toilets makes me an extremist, then I'm an extremist. And they were like, well, yeah, you know, of course I want to ban all trans women from the toilets. I was like, well, like, of course then normal seems extreme to you because you're utter nutter. Like, ridiculous view. Anyway, it gets good. So they said this, and I've had a few of these before. And, you know, it's usually just someone having a tantrum and storming off. Like, all right, whatever, mate. Like, whatever you need to do to justify you becoming an extremist. Like, this isn't a sign of me becoming more extreme. This is absolutely a sign of them, like, becoming too extreme that me saying trans women should be able to use the toilet has suddenly become intolerable for them. Anyway, this got 129 likes. Like, that's quite a lot for someone storming off. I mean, my original post probably only got like 800 or something. So I looked, and they had quote tweeted my original one, like doing a pylon, and they actually quote tweeted a couple of mine, like 2 or 3. So, like, they were saying about me just wanting attention, and they quote tweeted all these people in and made sure everyone liked their post, their little storming off thing. And we had a bit of a squabble, and I was like, mate, this is really embarrassing and it's really pathetic. And also, what you're saying is wrong, and you just said you want to ban trans women from the toilets, so, like, you're an extremist, so of course you don't agree with my position. Like, you're mental. And then they said, oh, this tweet was so good. They said, do you think calling people who are clearly not your mate makes your tweets any less condescending? So it's a classic. Regular viewers of TERF Wars will know that I say mate when I'm talking to people, because where I'm from, in the south of England, it's the thing people say. Men say it to men, women say it to women, men say it to women, women say it, like, it's just a thing that people say, like, oh, thanks, mate. Like, would you like to drink out of a pineapple, mate? Oh, cheers, mate. I actually quite like it as a word, but gender critical people don't like it, because in lots of places, I think particularly middle class England, like, I don't know, London or whatever, mate is a thing that men say. So they always like to make this little point about how I say mate, and I've actually specifically, like, because I thought maybe I should phase this out of my vocabulary, because for some people mate is like a male thing, and I was like, no, fuck it, that's bullshit. Like, as if the word mate is male. Like, what are you on about? Words don't have a gender. Just, like, get over yourself. It's pathetic. Anyway, they always have to make a little stand over that, because, like, all the time. I actually think there might be some tweets later on where that was just like their whole thing. I can't remember if I included them or not. But anyway, so I was saying about how I was like, well, you've said that I want attention, but here you are causing a pylon and getting all your mates to turn up and cheer you on. Doing a pylon. It's like, I don't do that. And she's like, well, you should pylon. Like, I couldn't care any less. I was like, pfft. But then they said, and this literally made me scream out loud again, because I don't frankly give a damn. I'm a woman, so take me as I am. Quoting my own lyrics. Now that's narcissism. Yes, mate. Yes, it is. Quoting your own song lyrics in a storming off, like, this person. So I replied to him, I was like, so you turned up to an unrelated tweet of mine to announce that you were storming off because I was a narcissist and because I got more extreme. Then you said you want to ban me from the toilets. Then you quoted your own song lyrics. What absolute state, like, oh man. I've said this before, but I genuinely, like, I'd heard of the term projection before, like 5 years ago. I'd heard of projection. I was like, I know it sounds like one of those Freudian things where it's just like nonsense. Mate, gender critical people project. It's unreal. I could imagine being this narcissistic and then just doing, like, every single thing you accuse someone else of, you then proceed to do. Absolutely incredible. It was so good. But, so that's 2. of the funniest things that happened this week. Oh, yes, so sorry. This person writes songs. And they wrote a song. Oh, that's another thing, actually. So they said they followed me for balance. And I looked, and last June, they wrote a song dedicated to J.K. Rowling. And last February, so February 2020, this person said they followed me for a few months recently. Last February, they were arguing to ban all trans women and girls from the toilets. So, you didn't follow me for balance, mate. You've always been a fucking extremist. Like, what are you on about? The whole thing was a lie. It was some little attention-grabbing, like, tantrum thing, followed up by lyrics. Oh, mate, it's just so good. Anyway, that was two of the three most hilarious things this week. But this is the best one. Yes, this is the best one. So, someone or other's like, blah, 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 blah. And then he said that they were explaining why trans people are bad. And so they said, since the number of autistic females transing, they always have to make up their own words for everything. They can't say transitioning, they have to say transing. And the idea of doing that is to take away the agency from the trans person. Because they say, like, when a trans person says, oh, I transitioned, they always say, you were transed. And that's just some culty garbage. Anyway, since the number of autistic females transing is 8 times what it should be, is one reason I can't let it pass. Autism is hard enough. So the argument here is that, one second, I'm going to have some more pineapple. It's not actually pineapple, it's peach and Captain Morgan's peach squash. Don't judge me. So, their argument here, it's not actually that important because the hilarious person's still to turn up, but their argument here is that trans people are more likely to be autistic, so actually maybe it's just autistic people being confused and, oh, we can't trust autistic people to know their own minds and to understand why they have gender dysphoria. It's an excuse. They're trying to suggest that kids are being manipulated being trans, and they've noticed that autistic people are something they can use as a tool to do that, so that's what they're going for. I don't know what the number is. It's not 8 times, but all LGBT people are more likely to be autistic than the general population, and all autistic people are more likely to be LGBT than the general population. There's an overlap. It's not just trans people, it's gay people, it's bisexual people, it's lesbian people, like, it's all of them. But, for sure, trans people are more likely to be autistic than the general population. But, I mean, that's something they've known literally for decades, as we're about to find out. There's been studies, like, literally from the early 90s. I think there's one from 1990 saying, oh, you know, most of the kids that or not most, higher than average kids that we see are autistic. It's still a low percentage. I should have looked up the numbers, but I'm not sure what it is. But it's like, you know, 10% or something. It's not nearly like 50 or whatever. So they've known about this for a while, and they've included it in how to diagnose people. And, you know, autistic people in general have different needs to people who aren't autistic. And for sure, when it comes to healthcare, and it's worth considering those things. But, like, that's something they factored in. Anyway, we'll move on. So anyway, I said there is absolutely no evidence that autistic people are being misdiagnosed as trans. And that's just a fact. There is literally no evidence for it. I mean, it's just completely made up assertion. But I got 11 replies. All from the same person. Oh, well, I actually got 9 replies. 9 replies with sources and 2 other nonsense replies. So this one guy, who's about to come up, he's still going to be about half the show. It's going to be about this guy. So this one guy replied with 9 sources. And a few smug comments like, you're hilarious. Like, how many studies do you need? You know, obviously, this person has lots of evidence that autistic people are being misdiagnosed as trans. Like, oh, yeah, you know, my son or my daughter is autistic. Take them to get help, and then the evil, crazy George Soros doctors are like, oh, you know, autism isn't a thing. We just need to trans your kid against their will. And here's all the evidence for it. So I thought, well, I actually don't know that much about this area. Like, I know some about autistic people, and I know a lot about trans people, but I didn't know much about the overlap. So I was like, well, I might as well actually read all this guy's sources, because maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there is, or at least I want to know, like, potentially this guy's right and there is a real problem and it's documented. Potentially, it's just some gender critical argument I don't know yet, and it's worth knowing what arguments they're going to make. But it wasn't either of those two things. So I went through 9 of his links and I read all of the text in all 9. But the first one, opportunities for growth, transition for youth with autism spectrum disorder. Okay, yeah, so this is going to be about trans people who are autistic. And hang on a minute. Developmental transition from adolescence to adulthood. This isn't about transitioning from boy to girl or girl to boy. This is about transitioning from boy to man or girl to woman. In this context, transition means growing up. It means some autistic people need special care, and as a child, they're given special care for children. And some autistic people need special care, and as an adult, they're given special care for adults. But at some point, you need to transition from one care to the other. And that's, no, it's important, because especially with some autistic people who like struggle with change, which, you know, some do, it can be, I can imagine it can be very difficult to deal with the fact that, like, you're no longer a child, so you're not having this routine that you've had, like, potentially for like 18 years of your life. And it's got to change to a new one because of how the care systems work. And so I think this is a really important topic, but it's nothing to do with trans people. So I was like, oh, mate, this guy's just Googled the word trans and he's got one of his sources muddled in and he just didn't read, like, or maybe he cares a lot about autistic people and he's just got the wrong source. So we'll just move on to the next one. Oh, what are transition strategies? Transition strategies are techniques used to support individuals with autistic spectrum disorder during changes or disruptions to activities, settings, or routine. This is another one where this is a very important discussion. So this is similar to the last one because this is about autistic people who are dealing with transitions in their routines. So not necessarily from childhood to adulthood, but like, I mean, it's a good article. It's worth looking these things up if you're interested in these things, or if you know like an autistic person who needs this kind of help. But it's nothing to do with trans people. It just had transition in the title. So I was like, uh-oh, 2 in a row. Let's go on to the next one. Healthcare transition services for youth with autism spectrum disorders. Sorry, I'm ducking out the way here so you can see it. So the important part here is where it says, this paper seeks to describe the experience of youth with autism spectrum disorder in making the healthcare transition to adult care. So again, this is about children growing up and transitioning to a different care system. So I went through all of this guy's links. Out of the 9, 4 of them were literally this, where it was a transition in a completely different context. Didn't even mention trans people at all. 3 of them were just a general discussion about trans people with autism. There was no arguments at all. They were just like, did you know that some trans people have autism? Then there was one, which I think I highlighted a bit on this, yeah. So there's one there. So this is someone discussing how they're a trans man and they were autistic, and they were saying how they had an uphill struggle that people with autism face when it comes to transition, highlighting how hormone therapy and other medical assistance is often deemed redundant or dismissed as an obsessive trait or part of a strictly autistic profile. So this thing, he's linked me in defense of the idea that trans people are being autistic people are being misdiagnosed as trans, actually argues against his point. It goes on to discuss it more. This is just like an interview with a trans man who was like, actually, because I'm autistic, I found it even more difficult than other trans people, because every time I went for healthcare, they wrote me off and said, oh, you're autistic, so you can't be trans. Like, as if you can't be both, when we already know that you're more likely to be both. So this is a strong argument. Well, not strong. It's an argument. It's a piece of evidence against the assertion that you're trying to prove. And of course, the last one, this is the closest out of all 9. This was the closest that came to proving this argument. They've said, one common characteristic of autism is that autistic people often have what's called an overfocused interest in subjects dear to them. At least one researcher has suggested that autistic people's gender dysphoria is really an overfocused interest in gender. So that's the gender critical argument. Like, that's, if this was linked to me by someone who wasn't a hilarious buffoon, mate, this guy's going, oh, so good. This is the argument that, like, I've seen from other gender critical people, where they push this one researcher, or how many they've got, saying, what if autistic trans people are actually just autistic people who are really into gender? It's kind of garbage. But anyway, so then this case then goes on to say, but the majority of professionals who work with this population disagree that this theory is sufficient to explain the co-occurrence. They then go on to explain how they're aware of the overlap. Here's all the evidence as why it's not caused. It's caused by that. I mean, they're saying at the bottom, we're seeing that a good number of neurodivergent teens come into gender clinics truly are transgender. So again, this was a strong argument against Lloyd. So this guy, in argument to defend his argument, linked me 9 sources, 4 of which were just the word transition, but in a different context. 3 of which were discussions about the fact that some trans people are autistic, and 2 argued against this point. I couldn't believe it. Like, I just was going through. Like, when I got to the 3rd one, I was like, no way. Has he seriously, like, smugly linked me all these studies? And, like, there's quite a few people in the tag list here, so people are seeing this. But the thing is, so this guy is actually a trans man, and he is one of the gender critical trans people who's gets a lot of support from gender critical people, because he is a trans person who speaks out against trans people, and particularly is focused. Actually, I might just jump ahead onto this one because it's more relevant, then we'll come back. He's very focused on like stopping trans kids from getting help. And I actually think, like, kind of sadly, I think that maybe there was some kind of malpractice involved in his transition. Like, he still is a trans man. He hasn't detransitioned. And I don't really want to focus on him as a person too much, other than the fact that he just massively humiliated himself here. So if you do know who this is, please don't say it in the comments. Don't go and, like, have a deal over him about this. But anyway, he is very dedicated to taking away trans children's healthcare, which is actually horrific, and is, I mean, I think it's child abuse, but he's obviously not very good at what he does, because he's just given me 9 pieces of evidence which completely trash his own argument. Mate, it's so good. But I was kind of wondering, like, he gets a lot of credibility. He gets all of, like, you know, loads of gender critical people cite him and source him and support him, and he started, like, a crowdfund and they donated money to it and stuff. And because he is just, like, because of his status as a trans person who is gender critical and speaks out against trans people, no, I mean, obviously not because he's good at it. I mean, you just saw that, like, it really is one of the people that you're willing to donate money to. Like, one of your, like, thought leaders in opposing trans healthcare is someone who does this level of arguing. And that's the thing, that is the people who investing in. And the reason is there's this. So this is what I kind of wanted to discuss. Well, let's first just cover this tweet. So the same guy, Clownface here. I've heard a story from a parent that made my skin crawl. Do you know what I would do as a trans myself? I know this sounds suspicious, but like legit, this guy is a trans man. He's just an idiot. Do you know what I would do as a trans myself if my kid's school changed pronouns, took my kids a gender therapist? I would flip out. I would throw desks over, scream. I guarantee one thing, I would be on the 6 p.m. news. So that's kind of a grim threat, to be honest. It's kind of mad that any trans person would, it's mad that anyone would do that, but particularly a trans person. But kind of what I wanted to focus on, like, and particularly with this tweet that I'll read out in a second, is that there's this kind of like, it's the opposite of a symbiotic relationship where the two sides help each other. And instead the two sides kind of screw each other over. There are gender critical people who are desperate for trans people who are speaking out against trans people because it gives their position so much more credibility. If you can find a black person who opposes black rights, if you can find a gay person who opposes gay rights, that means you can say, oh, I'm not racist because Candace Owens is saying my position. You know, I'm not homophobic because I don't know who the current leading anti-gay activists are. But, you know, there's always a member of a group who is willing to say it or who has bullshit views, and they are such a like boon for the anti side that they instantly become a celebrity within the anti's like little bubble. So they really need this guy because he's one of the few trans people who will say all this mad stuff, but he's bad for them because he's so bad at it. And then in reverse, like when you're a trans person who's kind of got into gender critical, I actually was thinking of doing like a video specifically on this. When you're a trans person who has become gender critical and has kind of bought into the bullshit for whatever reason, you aren't getting validation from your friends. Like if all your friends are gender critical, none of them are going to be treating you like a person. None of them are going to be like, you know, treating you like a normal person. They're all going to be treating you like this trans token person. And you're not going to be getting validation from your trans friends. You're not going to be getting validation from random people that you know because you're so invested. Or you're not going to be getting it from yourself. The only type of validation you're going to be getting is all of this positive reinforcement every time you say something bullshit about trans people. Every time you make an argument about trans people, it instantly gets loads of attention. Like that one about flipping over tables and stuff. And like this one. Did this one get much? No, this one hasn't got much reaction yet. But you see there's so much from gender critical trans people. They will make stuff up about trans people and it will get 1,000 likes. And they'll get loads of people saying, oh, you're so strong. You're like so brave to speak out. Like you're so, you know, what you're doing is so important. And that's the only validation they get, which is sad. And, you know, I think everyone has very mixed feelings on gender critical trans people because they're doing harm and they're fighting against our rights and they're like selling themselves out. But like almost all of them are there for a reason. You know, it's like, it's kind of depressing. I think I might do a video on it and like cover it in more detail. Anyway, this guy made this thing up, and this is just such a classic example of what gender critical trans people do. They'll start off by speaking out and they'll say, actually, I don't agree with trans rights activists, and they'll get attention. But after a while, you don't get attention for that, so you kind of need to step it up. And then this guy says, I think that's meant to say, more than 30 years on synthetic hormones causes a great deal of trans women to rely on wheelchairs. What's disgusting is not telling people that medical transition causes decreases in life longevity, higher rate of suicide. Disgusting is Tavistock hiding a study on HBO. I'm not sure. But the bit I was highlighting is this wheelchair thing. Like, where's this come from? That's just not true. You've literally, I mean, none of this is true. Literally just totally made that up. I've not even seen another gender critical person make this up. It's just a new thing that he's just made up. And it's just kind of sad. But also in the context of that earlier self, and this is in the same thread, by the way. Like, he was on fire. I don't know what's going on, mate. Scenario. It's like mad. But he didn't stop there. So, mate, when he put those 9 sources, like, I actually couldn't believe it. I was laughing so much. And I was trying to say to everyone else in the thread, like gender critical people, I'm appealing, like, this always fails. It's like, I'm appealing to your, like, integrity as a human. Ignore me as a trans rights activist. Ignore me as a feminist. Ignore me as whatever you want to ignore me as. Throw me away. But all I'm saying is, can you just look at these 9 sources that your ally, who you're liking all the tweets, you liked all of his sources, can you just read one of them? Can you read all of them? Can you read this one I've highlighted and I've drawn the square round? Because surely, at the very least, even if you don't agree with me at all, as a person with some integrity, you at least have to throw away what this guy's doing. And of course, none of them did. They never do. And they were all like trying to accuse me of not reading them. Standard gaslighting garbage. But after a little bit more argument, this guy says, Katie, do you realise that I am relentless? Do you realise I will look into everything you say? Everything! Like, literally like something out of a cartoon. I mean, this is kind of scary. I do get, like, grim. Like, this is kind of grim. I'm not actually intimidated by this guy because we've seen his competence on display. But also, he lives in America and I don't know, I'm not actually worried by this one. But I mean, this is a threat, isn't it? Look at it. Mad. Anyway, they were those 3 things this week. The white supremacist turning up to my cartoon about how gender critical people and white supremacist allies. The person who accused me of being a narcissist and then quit their own song lyrics. And then this guy absolutely owning himself, like possibly the most spectacular self-own with studies I've ever seen. One of my favourites once, I got the screenshot somewhere, I need to find it. Someone told me that trans women's breast tissue was just the same as men who get overweight and like get kind of like man boobs. And they linked me a study to back that up. And in the study, like in the abstract, it said trans women's breast tissue is identical to cis women's breast tissue and is nothing like man boobs. It's literally like a quote in the study they linked me. Oh, it's incredible. But anyway, I think this is actually better. I still haven't processed how good it was to just be given these 9. When I read that first one, I was like, okay, this 1 out of 9 is going to be hilarious and I'm going to put it on TERF Wars and it's going to be so funny. And when I went on to the second one, I was like, oh my God. Like, half of these are where he's just got the word transition. He's just typed in transition and autism and saved them all to a folder somewhere and not even read them. Incredible. Anyway, so now we're going to move on to some nonsense. General nonsense. So, I said, so this is like some argument. I actually think this is, I'm not sure if I covered the tweet that this came from, but the Labour Party, the Northern Labour Party's young youth group or something said, we're calling out transphobia. Transphobia is bad. It wasn't even that good a tweet. They pretty much just said that. People got angry at that, of course. So I said, if you're using women as a shield to hide your transphobia, you're both a transphobe and a misogynist. Which is true. When the only time you pretend to care about women is to attack trans people, then you're using women as a tool. Like, you don't care about women at all. So you're a misogynist too. I mean, I think it's pretty uncontroversial. And then, of course, we've got to have deflections. Deflections only. When you make an analysis like that, there's no, like, actually, this is untrue because of these reasons. There's no, well, actually, everyone does this and you do it the worst. There's none of that. It's just, men can't be women. You know this already. Like, yeah, I agree. Men can't be women. All right. Anyway, so I was like, this doesn't address anything I've said or this topic at all. And then they said, Katie, you don't have topics. You need to experience the real world to be able to engage in actual topics. What does that mean? Literally means nothing. Absolute nonsense. Like, it's just flailing. Imagine flailing this hard. You walked into this room flailing. You walked in saying men can't be women. So, like, no one disagrees with that. It was meaningless. I have to decode your nonsense dog whistle to get there. To even know what you're trying to say. All you're saying is, I don't like you. I don't like trans people. You walk into a room and like, I don't like trans people. And I'm like, all right. And then they're like, you don't even have topic. How do you have a topic? It doesn't make any sense at all. So good. It's just like they walked into a room and said, I don't like you, and punched themselves in the face. So good. 10 out of 10. This week was hilarious. I don't know if you're enjoying this, but I'm absolutely loving going through all these. So good. Also, the pineapple was probably helping. So to top this off, same guy. His bio says, a man who doesn't hate women. I'm sure, mate, because I always have to write who I don't hate in my bio. That's just normal. It's normal. It's definitely what someone who doesn't hate women would do. I'm sure you've never been accused of hating women before. I'm sure there's not like a problem that you're insecure about. Or like Twitter's like, oh, you're making an account in 2020 to harass trans people. Tell us a bit about yourself. Well, I'm someone who doesn't hate women. That's my most important characteristic. I want everyone to know about it. Incredible. Like, they're just... I just sometimes wish... This is what the show's all about. Like, sometimes these things happen, and I just feel like I need a studio audience to turn to and be like, so, guys, like, what the fuck? The state of these people. Anyway, this is a good little double bill. So, sorry, these guys, it's just such a funny week. So this is related to that fascist guy from earlier. We're talking about how there are fascists who agree with gender critical people, and obviously there aren't any fascists who support the mainstream trans rights position. It's like they can't work together. Oh, I nearly spoiled it there for you. So this person says, I'd imagine there are some fascists banging around in the GC. There are all sorts in here. So this person is gender critical, by the way. I did some research. Nationalists, lesbianists, ban the bombists, vegans, feminists even. That's the truest bit of this tweet. There are even some feminists here. Like, there's some. I saw an astrologer once. I myself am a misogynist. And then they've gone there like, how can a man become a woman? Yeah, whatever, mate. Like, whatever, I don't even care. Just walking in, just being like, I am actually here to defend women's rights. You know, I'm gender critical. That's what I'm about. It's not a dog whistle. I genuinely care about women's rights. But I'm also a misogynist, and I'm here with the lesbianists and the vegans. Incredible. This person came back. Oh no. Oh, I left their name. Please don't look them up. So this person, maybe you're wondering why that emoji is covered in their face. They said, discussing about how some trans people pass. They embarrass themselves by saying they could always tell who's trans and who isn't. Someone linked them some photos. They got it wrong. Then they said, that'd be great if real life were lived through photographs. So this is a classic gender critical argument. You're like, some trans people pass, you can't always tell, so everything you're saying is actually nonsense. And then they say, oh, well, you know, you only pass in photos. Anyone can Photoshop. But then, rather than just saying anyone can Photoshop, they went on to say, in which case, I could pass as a giraffe. Perfect angle. Lighting, costume, makeup. Mate, what angle do you need to look like a giraffe? Like, some kind of... The one thing people know about giraffes is they have long necks. And you know how long your neck is? It's not very long. Like, what are you on about? Absolute garbage. I'm not even going to read the second half. Just nonsense. Just a giraffe. Like, even if you'd said a horse, it would be more credible. What angle? What lighting? What to pass as a giraffe? Not even like, oh, I've got a giraffe costume on. To pass as a giraffe, as in someone's like, that is a photo of a giraffe. Oh, mental. Amazing. 10 out of 10. I love these people. So good. Anyway, so here's some self-owning, don't know how to logic, some good stuff. So I said, the mainstream gender critical, this isn't actually really relevant, but it's true. The mainstream gender critical movement has gone from, no one is trying to claim trans people don't exist, that's hyperbole, to trans kids don't exist in like 10 months. They have. Since lockdown, that's become the mainstream gender critical position because of the Kira Bell case. So this person has replied completely unrelated nonsense, just completely confusing themselves. So if trans women are women, doesn't that mean that trans women don't exist? You can't have it both ways. Who is really denying the existence of trans people? Oh, you got me. I am the real transphobe. Oh, like, just incredible. Just who doesn't think these things through? If cats are mammals, does that mean cats don't exist? Please, to anyone who's watching, if you're related to the education system at all, lobby your hardest to teach critical thinking and maths from like age 4, because otherwise you end up with things like this. This like set theory sounds kind of like intimidating as a type of maths, and like critical thinking. And in one sense it kind of is, because you can get this, like when you go into kind of advanced set theory, you can get these proofs where like there's different types of infinity and there are more numbers between 0 and 1 than there are numbers as in integers. Like, you can prove that. I think I can probably still remember the proof for that. That's set theory, and that's kind of scary. But set theory is also things like, if cats are mammals, that doesn't mean all mammals are cats. Like, which is just so bit. That's kind of like, honestly, that's the kind of thing that I would expect people to know in primary school. And I just think the problem with gender critical is it requires you to fight against this system, because if you just acknowledge all of this system, then you end up with it implying positions you disagree with, and that's not good. So you have to just pretend it doesn't say that. And then you end up saying things like this. This is what I mean by transphobia rots your brain. Transphobia rots your brain. It makes you say, if cats are mammals, does that mean cats don't exist? That's what's going on here. Anyway. Oh, a couple of we're critical of gender. Losing your temperature. Losing your temper is such a masculine emotion for a lot of people. Nonsense. Another one in a row. That's a very male response, mate. Don't know what male response is, really. Like, this is like one of the kind of failings of understanding the difference between like statistical probabilities versus like individuals. If you say, here's a sentence and men are much more likely to reply in this way than women are, in which case you could say, there is a as an average response of men, or I mean that probably isn't even true, but you can say these responses are more typical for men than they are for women. You can make that analysis. But then if any one person made that response, to then label it male or female, that's what sexism is. To assume that because, like with the word mate, if 60% of the people who say mate are men, then when someone says mate, that doesn't mean they're a man. That doesn't mean it's a manly thing to do. Because 40% of the people say it, like I've totally made those numbers up, but in general, that there's just a complete failure of understanding of how these things work. And it's also just sexism. It's just straight up sexism. Of course it is, because that's gender critical, because the original cartoon at the start. Oh, this is a nice little cell phone. I'm sure that... Right, we're coming up to the end of the time, but there's a few more to go. I can't remember what the last one is. Oh, actually, I do remember what the last one is. It's hilarious. There's a few more just done ones to go. This one is a cell phone. This is a cell phone with nearly 600 likes. I actually should have checked to see what it got to. But this person says, they're quote tweeting someone, and they've said, the first rule of misogyny is everything's women's fault. And, like, that's true. This is an observation, and they're talking about something where often women get blamed for things that aren't women's fault. You know, like the classic is victim blaming, women get blamed for being sexually assaulted. Like, that's a very classic example of this, like, kind of feminist idea that this person is talking about. So the tweet they're quote tweeting, we would expect them to be someone's suggesting that women are to blame for something. So let's have a look. So the original tweet was Nicola Sturgeon's, who's the I don't know, she not a first minister, I guess. She's like the Prime Minister of Scotland, but they don't have a Prime Minister because that's the UK thing. She's the leader of Scotland. She's the voted in leader of Scotland, and she's talking about how this insurgency of terrorists in the capital in the USA was grim, and it was. And then someone, a woman by the way, has said, remember, unchallenged transphobia and racism is how this started, which is, like, it is largely true. I mean, it's probably mainly racism, but, like, transphobia is a big part of the culture war. And they could have also added how misogyny and homophobia are part of this, but, you know, they are right in saying that transphobia and racism are huge forces in the culture war. As to how we ended up with, like, some guy dressed as, like, you know, Braveheart or whatever. Is that the right film? I haven't seen it. Some guy dressed up in all his nonsense garb, storming into the Capitol and getting 11 years for, like, being a terrorist. Anyway, it's worth noting that they haven't blamed women here at all. Or even suggested it. Or that's not even something you could get from this tweet at all. But when you're a gender critical person and you see the word transphobia, you've been trained to decode that to mean women's rights, because you use women as a tool for your goal of taking away trans people's rights. And the fact that, like, half or potentially even more than half of gender critical people, or people pushing the gender critical position at least, are men, as, like, most of the people we've been talking about today have been men, and all of the, like, the people like Trump and Orban and stuff, all the people from that cartoon that I posted earlier, sorry, all of them are men. You know, it's a pro-patriarchy position, gender critical, so not all men, but, you know, there are certainly men pushing the position of transphobia, and like any trans person will tell you that women are more likely to be accepting than men are. I mean, that's just something we all experience. But they have to try and, in order to make them feel justified, as part of their little, like, justification. Like, I'm not transphobic, I'm just defending women's rights. So when you say you want trans rights, you're attacking women. So when you're calling someone transphobic, really, you're just blaming women. It doesn't make any sense at all. Like, no one who wasn't transphobic would read this. Like, no one who isn't, like, brainwashed into this little loop of, like, there's no such thing as transphobia. Actually, it's just defending women's rights. Actually, it's only women pushing this position. Only someone who's, like, been indoctrinated into that bullshit would see the word transphobia and instantly be on the defense and be like, actually, you're just defending women's rights. Like, mate, if you weren't guilty of transphobia, you wouldn't have seen this. This is a cell phone. This is absolutely a cell phone from nearly 600 people. Incredible. It's just... like I feel like most people don't know about the state of feminism in the UK and trans rights and all this kind of stuff, to be able to decode all of this and understand what's even's going on. And you might even see this and be like, well, I agree with the top, I agree with the sentiment. You know, often women get blamed for things that aren't their problem. And then you see this and you're like, oh, maybe these two have history, and maybe there's more to this story that I don't know, and they're just kind of, they're blaming women for it. But like, this has nothing to do with women. This is transphobes who are mainly men. Cell phone nonsense. Oh, my voice has started to go. Oh no, I need to drink more pineapple. So, this is another flag person. This is actually a different flag person to earlier, but I suspect they hold similar views on other things. So this person said they wanted to take my rights away or whatever. And they were like, blame the TRAs, the trans rights activists. They've got everyone's backs up. TRAs do for transsexuals what anti-Zionists do for Palestinians, i.e. piss everyone else off at them. So I was just like I could argue that that's bullshit. I mean, they're still just garbage and nonsense words. But I thought I'd attack the premise here that they're making is, I was like, you want to take away my rights, my freedoms. You want to ruin my life because TRAs are getting your back up. Like, is that really what you're saying? And they were like, yes, you're collateral damage. It's a terrible shame. I suggest you take it up with Stonewall. It's so pathetic. Like, what are you on, mate? Like, you're just looking someone in the eye and saying, I am waging war against people like you, but you're one of the good ones. But I don't care because I'm going to ruin your life anyway. For what? It's pathetic. They actually backtracked on this because it was just, I was like, well, thanks for being honest. Thanks for being honest that you're literally just do not give a shit about me and you want to take away my rights because someone wound you up on the internet. Pathetic person. Pathetic. Oh, you got to drink every time I say pathetic on you. So, whee! Pathetic. Oh, mate, this one's so good. Shout out to any of the skeptics in the audience. So I was like, your argument here is, I think it's common sense that we should ban the doctors and experts from prescribing internationally recommended healthcare. I was like, that's openly science denial. And like, I would think most people's replies here would be, actually, no, here is the science that backs up my position. But of course, there isn't any science that backs up his position. So he said, you do know that science isn't infallible, right? Yeah, I do actually know that, mate. I do know how science works. These kind of people love this. Anti-vaxxers are like the prime example. You're like, well, climate change deniers. You're like, all the science, decades of research says this one thing. And they're like, don't forget, we used to think the world was flat. Don't forget thalidomide. It's like, well, because one scientist position in the past was wrong, that means we can discount all of modern science. Or more importantly, we can discount the bits that I don't like, that disagree with me. And it's just this is like a very creationist thing to do. It's a very anti-the-vax thing to do. It's a very like Stephen Crowder, Paul Joseph Watson thing to do. It's just so dumb, my goodness. I do know that science isn't infallible. I mean, it doesn't even quite make sense because like science is like a process to finding out what's true by testing things, and we create models based on data we have, and the more tests and the more understanding we have and the more advanced that we can get with technology, the better model of reality we can make. And that means we're constantly improving it. And that means sometimes we will create a model for reality that has that doesn't match up with, all of our models of reality don't specifically match up with reality completely. and we're constantly improving them. So that, in one sense, every time that we discover anything, we are improving our models. But in another sense, every time we discover anything, we're proving that we were wrong before. Which is, like, that is one way of looking at it, but, like, that you would only look at it that way if you were desperate for science to be wrong. Which is pathetic. Oh, mate, this one made me scream out loud as well. So good. So I was like, why would you support this garbage? It's wrong. Like, here's just factually wrong. And they said, in my case, I can't do a smarmy enough voice enough for this. In my case, what prompted me to support her position was my having some acquaintance with reality. Oh, it's the most cringy thing anyone's ever written. Just imagine, like thinking, imagine being a party and, like, someone's like, why'd you support them? And you're like, I'm going to own these people. I'm going to slam down. I am the person. I'm the rational in the room. I'm the adult in the room. What prompted me to hold this position is the fact that I have some acquaintance with reality. Twat. My goodness. Embarrassing. Just imagine writing that. Like, I didn't even need to do a comeback. Didn't even to read the rest of it. Who cares? Cringy cringe. This is the last one. So this is an old classic. This one's actually from January 2020. How exciting. This is a DM that I got. So I just thought I'd like to end on something totally different and something from the past, because that's like my theme. We go through the week and then we just get a greatest hit from the past. And this person said, in my DMs, "You are beautiful. Thank you. I'd love you to strip me." Getting saucy. "Kick the shit out of me. Piss all over me. And then throw me out into the street." No thanks. Like, I know some people are into some weird stuff, and I'm very much not into this. Why would you write that to someone? This is what being a woman on the internet is like. For anyone who's never been a woman on the internet. Isn't that exciting? Anyway, so let's move on to the next section. I've got to remember which key to press. Not that one. Yay! I'm really pleased that we haven't had any tech issues yet, I think. So I think my new setup is working. My little clicker worked quite well, apart from a few times, like, that's got different size buttons. Quite exciting. It seems to be working. We haven't had a horrible crash out where I have to reconnect the internet or anything. So thank you very much, everyone, for like stopping by and watching, for hanging out with me for the last hour and laughing. Like, this week has been hilarious. I hope that you've laughed at this as much as I did through the week. And as I was re-editing these tweets and stuff, it's like, my goodness, the stuff they come out with. I just hope that more people see, like, the state of gender critical. I mean, I'm not trying to suggest this is all of their, like, best and strongest arguments, because, I mean, that would be a straw man and that would be, like, kind of nonsense. But I don't go looking for this stuff. This isn't like I've gone to the place with the stupidest takes and stuff. Like, this is constant. Everything you see in TERF WARS it's like daily, it's hourly. I had like 60 different tweets I had to cut down. All of this ridiculous. All the time, every single week, I have more than I can fit into this. And, you know, it's hilarious. Keep laughing at it with me, because it makes it so much more tolerable. When you're a trans person on the internet, it can very much feel like the whole world's against you because, you know, they hunt you down and say bullshit things to you. But if we get these arguments like, you know, like, oh, I have some acquaintance with reality, and we can just all laugh at it with each other. It diffuses them. So anyway, sorry, I'm kind of ranting now. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. Please do check out, I released my first ever edited video this week, which was called I'm a trans woman and I used to be transphobic, which I did. So you can go and cancel me. Go and watch a video and cancel me. And I'll be really pleased if you give me any feedback on it. Also, I'd love feedback on the TERF wars. Like, I read all the comments. I read too much stuff on Twitter. Like, just let me know if you've got an idea to make it better or anything like that. I'd really love it. Thank you very much for stopping by, everyone. I really love you all. And bye.